What is going on, everyone? My name is the California Cougar, and welcome back to another Survivor Season review. Today, we get to talk about the 26th season of Survivor, Survivor Caramoan, aka Fans vs. Favorites 2. So, yes, this is the second Fans vs. Favorites season, and I believe it is also the first season to have a full tribe of returning players and a full tribe of new players since the first Fans vs. Favorites. This is also the first season, well, I guess not the first season to have returning players since Heroes vs. Villains, considering there were 3 other seasons that did, but the first season to heavily feature returning players, I guess you could say. But yeah, since Heroes vs. Villains. So I'm sure there were a lot of high expectations for this season. I mean, it's in the Philippines again, just like the Philippines. I mean, it was a decent location, but it's an island, so who really cares? But yeah, this is the second season in the Philippines, the second Fans vs. Favorite season, so a lot of people had high expectations for this season. Now, when I first saw this season, when it came out, I will admit, I kind of actually enjoyed it a little bit. I thought it was fun. I thought it was enjoyable. It had a decent cast, but then I rewatched it recently, and I don't know what I was thinking when I first watched it, because this season is actually pretty horrible when you look at it. It really is. I mean, it's got so many dark moments, and what I mean by that is, I mean, people just hated each other this season. It was crazy, especially in the pre-merge, which we'll talk about. But yeah, like a lot of heated moments. The cast, oh my god, for a Fans vs. Favorites cast, this is one of the worst casts I think I've ever seen on any type of all-star-ish season. I mean, this is the best you could come up with, and not to mention the fans. The fans were just as bad, if not worse. Let's talk about some of these people. Okay, so I'll start off with the people that I actually liked this season. Malcolm, of course. I really liked him in the Philippines, and he was really good here as well. Reynolds was fun. Eddie, he was okay. Cochran, of course. Cochran actually redeemed him. I feel like Cochran's one of the people that redeemed himself this season. I mean, I didn't like him in South Pacific, but I liked him much better here. He played a much better game, and we'll talk about him a little bit more. So yeah, Cochran, he was enjoyable. And I guess maybe Corinne. Corinne was still her kind of bitchy, sassy, but self-aware self that she was in Gabon. She didn't really change too much about her. Other than that, that's really it. I mean, you have some people who came back this season that were so disappointing. Dawn. I never really liked Dawn to begin with, but she was awful this season. I got tired of her constant crying very quickly. She was just so a fish out of water, but not in a good way. She just did not stop crying for the most ridiculous things, too. I mean, for losing some dentures or whatever they were, teeth. I don't remember exactly what they were. She cried over that and threatened to quit the game because of it. Like, come on, you're on Survivor. You can deal with it for, I don't remember what day she lost the teeth on. I want to say it was like day 25 or something. I don't remember. Somewhere in the 20s, I think. She could have lasted 10 more days. Or whatever it was. But yeah, like, her threatening to quit the game. I mean, you have Sherry on the fan side, and Sherry was a promising player in the pre-merge, and then she just completely, like, went ghost in the post-merge, and was just so boring as a whole this season. I mean, Eddie, I already mentioned, he was alright. He wasn't really much of a player, but, I mean, he was there. People liked him, so, I mean, I enjoyed him. I thought he was alright. Eric, yeah, he the story with him was he was on the first Fans versus Favorites as a fan, and now he's a favorite. But he's just a shell of his former self, really. He wasn't really that physically strong. I think he might have won an immunity challenge, but he just wasn't really there as a player. Just kind of boring. I mean, his voting, every time he casted a vote, he always had this fancy writing. But other than that, that's really it. And then he got medevaced, and it's like, okay, well, I hope he lives, but I don't really care that he's out of the game. I mean, he just wasn't really that entertaining this season like he was in the original Fans versus Favorites. And he still handed an immunity idol over to Andrea, I think it was. And Cochran called him out on it. It was like, dude, do you learn nothing? Like, you don't give away immunity like that. So, yeah, that was probably his highlight of the season, was giving up and finding an immunity idol and handing it right over to Andrea. That was his highlight this season. And I guess he won an immunity challenge, but that's really it. Brenda, didn't like her this season. She was so self-righteous and just, annoying. Didn't like her. Andrea, whatever, who cares? I don't really know why she was brought back as a favorite to begin with. She wasn't really anything special in Redemption Island, and I guess they saw her as a player with potential, and she did okay, but she wasn't really that much of a threat, really. So, yeah, not really much to her. Reynold, I already talked about. Reynold was fine. He was a good character. Malcolm, he was my favorite this season, of course. I always love Malcolm. Philip, even Philip was a shell of his former self this season. He's clearly not the same when he's the one running the game. I mean, in Redemption Island, he was this funny, entertaining, guilty pleasure type of character that, okay, you probably wouldn't like if you were out there on the island, but he's really good for TV. He wasn't there this season. The only thing he really retained was the Stealth R Us thing. I mean, the best moments from him really came from Corinne talking smack about him. Which, yeah, Corinne talking smack about people is always entertaining. Her affection towards gays, in this case it was Michael. And Michael was, I mean, again, didn't really do much for me this season. He was just kind of there. But yeah, Corinne's affection towards gays, she had the same affection towards Charlie and Gabon. I always found that funny. So there's that, I guess. And that's really it for the merge. The pre-merge, I mean, this pre-merge was horrible. This is one of the worst pre-merges I think the show has ever had. It might be the worst. Probably the second worst behind One World for me. Because there were just so many awful moments. I mean, I didn't okay, Francesca. Why the hell was she brought back to begin with? She was the first person voted off in our original season. And then she comes back and gets voted off first again. That was hilarious. I don't care what anyone says. People are like, oh, she deserves a chance to play. She shouldn't have even been on this season. She was first voted off again. Good riddance. I don't care. So, yeah, Francesca, I don't know why she was brought back, and I'm glad she was voted off first again. Never cared about her. And then you have the whole Cool Kids Alliance thing. I already talked about Reynolds and Eddie, but I think it was Allie and Hope. They were pretty much non-existent because they were on that alliance. Whatever, who cares? Laura, who cares? Boring, move on. I think there were 20 people on this season, right? Yeah, there were definitely 20. Matt was okay, I guess. Julia, vanilla, just like Cochran described her. That's really what she was. I mean, who cares? And then, who else was there? Let's see, am I missing anybody? Oh, Shamar. How could I forget about him? That douchebag. The guy who was an army guy. He came on the show, was just lazy and abrasive. That's what he was. Just the epitome of a douchebag. And then, of course, you have Sherry trying to keep him around as long as possible as the shield. I mean, I don't know if that worked. I don't know how well that works anymore, but get rid of goats like Shamar. They all wanted to get rid of him because he was annoying. He was arguing with everybody. It was just not fun to watch. And then he gets a scratch in his eye, and he gets medevaced. I mean, again, who really cares? I didn't really care for him. And then you have Brandon Hantz. Oh boy, Brandon Hantz. Like, we all knew he was going to come back for a future season after South Pacific because of his relationship with Russell Hantz. We all knew he was going to come back. But like this, oh my god, I don't think I've ever seen somebody so hateful towards a tribe ever. Like, he was probably more hateful than Colton. And that's saying a lot. Like, I still think Colton's a worse player because he quits, but I mean, Brandon essentially quit this season. The whole drama between him and Philip made absolutely no sense. He didn't like the Stealth or Us thing. Like, it made absolutely no sense. And then he just goes on a freaking tirade, like dumping the rice, dumping the beans, throwing chairs around. It was so uncomfortable to watch. Him doing this thing towards Philip was so uncomfortable to watch. His rant at the immunity challenge that became a tribal council right in front of the fans tribe. It was so uncomfortable to watch. I can't emphasize that enough. It was one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever seen on Survivor. It really was. There is nothing fun about watching a guy just absolutely lose his mind towards another person who he claimed was demeaning. I mean, his Stealth or Us thing was kind of cheesy, but I don't think it was demeaning. Like, he just went off. And, yeah, I guess he tried to channel Russell a bit. Like, pee in the rice, all that nonsense. Ugh, just, yeah, I'm glad they voted him off at that impromptu tribal council, or whatever you want to call it. And it was right in front of the fans, too. So, yeah, the fans are like, oh, we don't have to do anything. This guy's a freaking lunatic. He's going to go out on his own. So, yeah. I mean, crazy Brandon is crazy. Crazy Shamar is crazy. A lot of crazy people this season. People getting all bent up in their emotions. Brenda, Dawn, I'm looking at you two. Just so many bad moments. I mean, okay. So let's go over some of the other moments this season. I talked about Cochran a little bit. He was a solid winner, I think. Overall, he swept the jury vote. I mean, his two opponents in the final three were no match for him. They had absolutely no chance. Dawn was never going to win. Sherry was never going to win. Cochran was pretty much guaranteed to sweep the vote, and I'm glad he did because he was the most deserving. I was rooting for Eddie, but I do think Cochran was a better player, better winner. He won several immunity challenges this season, which I don't think anybody saw coming. So he had arguably one of the biggest growths from his first season to this season. So good on Cochran for that. I will say that. I do think he is a very deserving winner. A super fan of the show, obviously. So yeah, well done to Cochran for that. Some other moments. I mean, Malcolm finding an immunity idol with Corinne and them managing to keep it secret for so long up until the Three Amigos Tribal Council, as I like to call it, where Philip was voted off. That was probably the most entertaining moment of the post-merge this season, was the Three Amigos Alliance and the whole thing where Reynolds wins immunity, Malcolm has an idol, he pulls out another idol and hands it over to Eddie, shocking everybody. Everyone starts whispering. That's what kind of set off the whole whispering thing at tribal councils. Like, everyone's whispering, they're like, who do we vote? Andrea, Philip. Like, do we keep the same as before and split the votes between Malcolm and Eddie, which is what they ended up doing, but Eric flipped over to voting for Philip. So that was definitely an entertaining tribal council, I think. And I mean, the Survivor auction was alright. I mean, Brenda cried a lot this season too. I didn't even think about that. Brenda buying the pig brain was funny. Dawn with the chicken and not being able to buy letters. Eddie buying peanut butter for everyone, I thought was pretty good. Andrea giving up her spaghetti and meatballs and garlic bread for, what did she give it up? Rice and beans for the tribe, that's right. That was alright. So the Survivor auction was alright, I guess. Some of the challenges were okay. Philip thinking he's tough stuff in that challenge where they're running around the ropes trying to catch up to the other tribe, and then he falters. And then Corinne just absolutely annihilating him in a confessional about that. He's like, hey, Tubby, I don't see an ab, I don't see a peck on you anywhere. What do you mean you're the strongest? Just absolutely ripping him apart. She was entertaining, I will say that. But yeah, I mean, other than that, there's really nothing memorable about this season. You got 2 medevacs, which is always unfortunate to see. You hate seeing someone forced out of the game when they're not actually voted out. So yeah, you always hate to see that. But yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of great moments this season. There really aren't. There really aren't. The Three Amigos was probably the best thing about it with that tribal council. But other than that, there's really nothing to it with this season. There's absolutely nothing to it at all. So, yeah, rewatching this season made me realize just how horrible it actually is. And I'm probably never going to watch it again, honestly. This will be it for this season. So, yeah, Survivor Caramoan, the second season in the Philippines. We go from a great season in Survivor Philippines right back over to another crappy garbage season with a horrible cast of favorites and fans, and just so many dark moments, people hating on each other. Brenda's jury speech was another uncomfortable thing to watch. Yeah, her rant towards Dawn about the teeth. That was another uncomfortable thing to watch. Everyone just kind of laid into Dawn and Sherry at that final tribal. And rightfully so. I mean, they didn't really do anything memorable. They just kind of let Cochran run the whole thing. But yeah. So, I mean, I guess 2 out of 10, maybe, for the Three Amigos Tribal Council, Malcolm, Reynolds, and Eddie. But that's really all I can think of. I feel like I'm kind of being generous with this score. But yeah, Survivor Caramoan gets a 2 out of 10. Alright, so it was a bit of a longer rant than usual. I probably will call this a season rant, even though I didn't give it a 1. Usually a season rant is a good indicator that I'm giving the season a 1, but I gave this season a 2. So, yeah. What did you think about Survivor Caramoan if you have seen it? Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of it. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button for more content to come in the future. Next week, obviously, we're going to be talking about Survivor Blood vs. Water, the 27th season of Survivor. And, yeah, hopefully, maybe sometime in the future, after the Survivor reviews are done, I'll come back with some different videos. Maybe some sports videos in the future. Who knows? But stay tuned for my next video. Make sure to subscribe for more. And until that next video, once again, my name is the California Cougar. And always remember to stay California cool. Peace.